Hey guys, it's Jim Bounds at Motorhome Rehab Ranch. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. These videos have two purposes. First, for all of us ranch hands and those people that are doing the GMC thing on a daily basis, this is a weekly information. And I'm very excited that you guys comment back to me. We have a great time doing this. Another purpose for these videos is to add to our database, to add more information, the things that in the future, if somebody's asking a question or whatever, there will be information for them. And I appreciate the ranch hands supporting me to do this. It helps me, okay? But right now, let's talk together to the weekly diatribe that we do. Today is Monday before Hurricane Milton. This looks to be a big one. It's supposed to hit us on Wednesday. They said it was a Cat 5. It's supposed to hit us, maybe a Cat 2. And now they're saying it's supposed to be the strongest hurricane to hit our area. And for a long time, I was here on the last big one, Charlie, so this will be very interesting. So maybe I'll put a video out during the melee. I'll certainly do some videos and pictures and things like that. So come back and watch how it goes. Think good thoughts for us. It's going to be very interesting. This house that I'm in has been here 100 years. It was put here in 1924 off of a flatbed truck that it was a barracks at a blimp base. It was decommissioned in Longwood in 1924. This is an old house. It's been here a long time. We hope that we'll do real well, and we're up on blocks. We're up on a high ground, so the ranch hopefully will endure. We'll see you guys definitely on the other side. All right, for the database and for today's talk, we just finished the series on rear suspension. And I asked you to send me some comments, some questions, some things you want to talk about. And I had a real good one that I really glossed over. And the gentleman got with me and asked me to fix that. All right. When we were talking last, with the system that I had felt would be the best to be mechanically easy to maintain, inexpensive, blah, blah, blah. I said that we're going to put the auto function, the auto solenoids in the back. All right, let me back up right there and explain that a little bit. All right. The best system is a system that has the least amount of component parts and technology, if you want to call it, so it can be fixed on the road. It can be actually repaired, not just R&R plate pieces or whatever. It can be actually fixed. Well, the up-down functions here, literally air compressor comes in and furnishes air to the front of the coach, to the controllers. The controllers spit air down to the back. About as simple as you can get, okay? If you want to add auto, now this is adding a feature. Now, if the auto fails, it will fail where everything else will be operational. This is the fail operational part of this, okay? The manual up-down controls and all this, if you have air, it will supply to the bags. Make sense? All right. To add auto, what I said to do is to run a bundle right here, of a left airline, a right airline, and then a main feed or main pressure airline, right? So you come to the back. This is the front of the coach, and then from here is the back. There's your 20 feet of living space or whatever. So in the back, in the compartment down there, or a compartment, you put it wherever you want to be, but it needs to be safe, one, and it needs to be accessible. You have the two solenoids, up-down solenoids. these are a two-way solenoid, on, off, closed, open. Make sense? All right. So this main feed comes down and is fed directly to the height control valves. This height control valve has an inlet, an outlet, and an exhaust. Okay? Now, you put pressure in. Depending on where this arm is, and then, again, it has about a 14-second delay. Depending on where this arm is, the output, okay, what it controls, it will either feed air in or blow air out. Make sense? So, you bring pressure down here and bring it into here. Output of the height control valve goes directly to your on-off solenoid. Now, you're driving down the road and the system's off. Air comes right here to here. There is air pressure, constant air pressure right there all the time, but it's not doing anything because it hasn't selected. You follow? All right. So now you flip the switch. Remember, you're going to run also a single wire running to the back to a switch. Turn the switch on. The switch connects the solenoids. Bing. The solenoids connect the height control valve to the air line. T-valve. T-fitting right there and right there. Now it's connected. Depending on where these height valves are, it will feed air into the system. Now, yes, it will feed back to here, but right here is closed off. It's not going to hurt anything. Air comes in here, goes to the height control valve, back out the height control valve here. If it needs to go down, it will exhaust the air here. Manually now, this is a good guy can ask a question. Manually, if you go down here, it will blow out behind the dash and you will have a noise, just like in a power level system. So if you're manually going down, air comes out here. If you're auto going down, air comes out. If you go look at your height control valve, there'll either be a fitting that sticks out, looks like a barb fitting, but it's got a little pin on the end of it, or it'll have about a 6-inch floppy rubber hose still on it. That is the height control exhaust valve. So when this thing determines that these airbags need to go down, it will connect the airbag through the solenoid, which is on, which is open, to the height control valve and let it to exhaust right here. That makes sense? But anywhere along the line, if this system fails, this main line here will still be operational. If the height control valve fails, leave it off and manually use it. That's the fail operational. I just said fail safe. All right. Next thing, ride height. I had several comments about this. If you go to your manual and you look up the ride height, and this will be at the bottom on the thing. There's a drawing. Take a picture real quick. Well, it'll be at the bottom. This is what GM told the mechanics how to do it. And they put a little mark in the front on the frame. There's a little oblong mark. And the difference of the top and the bottom of that mark is the tolerance. Yeah. Now, there are mark each side in the front, and there's a mark on the passenger side or under the propane compartment in the back. But on the driver's side, the generator was there, so they couldn't put a mark there. So they made a measure from the bottom of the frame to the ground. J.R. Slayton made a really nice set of sticks. It was all cut out and drawn out as to what it was. But here's the thing. What they said was, the front, as you look in your thing, says is 13 1/8 plus or minus a quarter. Okay, so you get down on the ground, get your tape measure, you go to the oval mark and you go 13 1/8. Okay, I got that. All right. And then in the back, it says to go to 11 11/16 plus or minus a quarter. 11/16? Boy, they're getting real accurate, because that's kind of crazy, because the height control valve, to get it where you're measuring in 16ths would be pretty hard to do. But let's just say that's about where it is. All right. That is what's called proper ride height. What does that mean? That means that that's the optimum steering drivability height. When you're on the highway, you'll get the maximum use of your caster. Caster is part of the front suspension, okay? There's caster, camber, and toe. The caster, if there's too much caster, it feels real light. Can't feel the road. If there's not enough caster, it's real hard to steer. It's real stiff steering, and you kind of go a lot like this, right? So there's a perfect spot, sweet spot for your caster, and that happens to be when your coach is at ride height, okay? Now, if you're above ride height, if the back is higher, let me back up. So that means that each time you need to carry your tape measure with you. No. Do this. Let's look at it another way to figure out ride height, and then we'll go on. First of all, if you look under your coach, coming out of the differential is your drive shaft, okay? Now, the drive shaft, for optimum torque transfer, this drive shaft needs to be as straight as possible into that wheel, into that knuckle. Follow? So go up under your coach and look at where your drive shaft is. If it's like this or it's like this, you're not high enough in the front, or you're too high. This drive shaft needs to go directly into that CV, okay? So set that up. And you do that using a torsion bar tool. Read about it before you touch it. I'm not going to talk about it here. Use your torsion bars to set ride height in the front to be where it needs to be, where the drive shaft's sticking out. Well, it's also probably 13 1/8 from the frame, but let's go a different way. Drive shaft is straight. Torsion bars have the drive shaft going straight out. All right, now go to the side of your coach. Stand next to the front wheel and mark where the top of the body side molding is, right? The rubber molding. Mark where it is on your waist, okay? Now, walk to the back. Stand between the two back wheels, right? And you got your finger on right here. Stand next to it and see where the body side molding is in relationship to the finger you have on your waist. It should be 1.5 inches to 2 inches lower. That's right. The back of the coach needs to be 1.5 inches to 2 inch rake to the back for it to have proper caster. All right. Why do they feel that's important? Well, I'll give you one clue. Came out in the early 70s, and I was in high school back then. And we liked to jack our cars up, laid the back end back. I had a 65 Chevy that I put blocks in the back, jacked it up. That was really cool. Well, if you jack the back of this motor, we didn't have adjustment. So if I would have gotten in one of these things in the 70s, I said, man, let's jack that thing up. It looks really cool. I bet you it runs better too. Actually, the reality is it's going to be so much worse. If you jack the back of it up, that rolls your caster negative. That's like you're standing on top of a basketball. You're trying to balance yourself. You'll be all over the road. No. Don't jack the back up. If you want proper ride height, no, proper ride height should be used basically on the highway, because you don't have speed bumps and swales, curbs and stuff like that, obstructions. Because with you at proper ride height, with 1.5 inches rake to the back, Your back bumper is closer to the ground than most people are used to, which means civil engineers, speed bumps, swales, curbs, and stuff like that can be targets for the back of your coach. Proper ride height should be on a highway, on a limited access highway where you're trying to boogie straight ahead. The rest of the time, the back end should be up level, maybe a little bit redneck high, because that saves the back bumper, the holding tank from all the curb swales and all that stuff. Plus, when you tilt it up like that, when you bring the back up and you get negative caster, you say it's over 45, it will be more difficult to drive. It's absolutely true. But at slower speeds, you'll be able to turn tighter, kind of like that shopping cart. The front wheel of the shopping cart is one of these follow wheels. Okay, it's very negative caster. Well, it goes real easy around the aisles in the grocery store. But if you go outside and let it go in the parking lot, you have no idea where it's going to go. So the more negative the caster is, the tighter it turns, but the harder it is to control. So in town, if your level are a little bit high, you'll be able to turn tight. Big, long machine, turning tight, very cool. But when you get on the highway, you need to put it in travel. That's why the auto function is here. Because after you play around town and all that stuff, you get on the highway, you're going to get serious. We're going to get down to work factor 2 there, Scotty. Flip the switch, brings it down to ride height, so you've got maximum drivability, steerability, and now you're ready to go. Now, it does not say that in the manual. Now, why not? Because that sounds pretty cool. What they say in the manual is that you use it to balance yourself in a park, and that you're not supposed to go any faster than 15 miles an hour if it's not in ride height. If it's any higher than ride height, you can't go more than 15 miles an hour. Read it, check it out. My personal opinion is, at the time, Bubba gets in there, jacks that sucker up as high as it'll go because it looks better and cooler, probably runs better. But we know that it has negative caster when you do that, and it's going to be harder to hold. Well, he's going to go 90 miles an hour. Why? Because it can. At 90 miles an hour with serious negative caster, you're gonna be fighting that thing, and you could hurt somebody. And GM could be sued because all you did is push a button and go up, and now it's not steerable as DOT tested and all that. It needs to be at ride height to be safe. Does that make sense? Well, how do they explain that to somebody in a manual? No, we're not going to do that. Tell them they need to have it at ride height at all times. Because he might be going 70 miles an hour in town. And then he kills everybody. No. It always should be in ride height, anything higher than 15 miles an hour. That was an easy way to describe it, which is totally bogus. That ride height system is very cool. To be up where you are safe and you can turn tight in roads, little 2-lane roads and stuff, is a wonderful feature. And then to get on the highway and drop it back where you've got cruisability is another wonderful feature. So this auto thing is really nice to have. I know a lot of you guys don't have anything, just have Schrader valves in the airbags, and that's cool. Hey, this is a small thing. I don't think you're going to kill anybody with it. Nobody's stupid enough to jack it up all the way. Well, all the way and go fast. Don't do that. The auto function is a real nice thing to have. And actually, if you've got the Crest line, as the lower line of the GMCs when they were produced, one of the trans modes, it didn't have any manual controls. You turned the thing on and went to auto and stayed there, would not go anywhere else. Well, it was kind of hard in camping and stuff. It probably didn't make many of those, which is true. Okay. All right. So the question was how to connect the height control valves to the solenoids and then to hook it all together in the system. Does this make sense? To get to you, there'll be a picture of this at the bottom of the Patreon page. And again, you guys that are watching me on YouTube, okay, great, do that. Hit like. YouTube loves that. And then go over to the Patreon page and look at all the pictures and stuff like that. Okay? So now you know why we have ride height and how to set it. 1.5 to 2 inches lower. Now, when you do have it at proper ride height, you come over here to this arm between the height control valve and the little tab on the suspension. You change the length of that arm. So what you do is get it to proper ride height, have that disconnected. Okay? Get it to where you want it to be, and then look how long it needs to be, and that's what needs to be connected. If you use an adjuster, take the adjuster off, let it hang in the air, put it to the ride height you want, then move the adjuster and adjust the adjuster to where it's at 0. And it's at 0 because this is spring loaded. It will go to 0. And hang there. If you get your thing to ride height and hook from that to the suspension, it will go there every time. And it will give you the proper ride height, the proper highway travel suspension. Make sense? I want to know my system works. So when I get in the coach, I set it to auto, fire the coach up, compressor user will come on, I set it to auto. So the compressor I've got a tank, I've got a power level system, and I have a tank. And it takes a minute or two to put air in the tank. So my system will run a little while, I'll hear it, and it's on travel. And what it's doing is it's filling the tank up, and then it's bringing the airbags up to where it's at ride height to where my 2 height control valves are preset. Boom, it's there. Then the tank finishes filling up, and then it shuts off. When that happens, some people have a light on the dash or whatever. When that happens, when you see the light go out, you know the system has pressurized itself, brought it up to ride height, and says, I'm done. All right. Now, to pull out of my driveway here at the ranch, I need to jack the back of it up. So after it's in travel and everything's shut off, I flip it to raise, and I count to 30 on mine. Depends on how fast it goes up. But so you turn it to raise 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephant, 4 elephant, 30 elephants. Turn it on hold. Boom. Now it's at ride height. It's 30 seconds higher than ride height. So I'm ready to now back out of my driveway and head out. As soon as I get out of the driveway and I get to the highway, put it on auto. Boom. Warp factor 2, Scotty. Boom. You're gone. Run about 10 or 15 minutes, flip it in hold. You can leave it in auto if you want. If you leave it in auto and you do have a small leak, the compressor will cycle every once in a while. And that's not unusual to hear in the electro level system because remember, the tank is a real small tank and chances of a little leak will actually cause it to cycle or burp. You can get it up to ride height and shut it off, electro level or power level, shut it off, and it'll stay there. Because remember, the end solenoid shut it off. In this system, those rockers are off, it's off. You follow? Well, that's how to use the system. It's how to figure out what ride height is and why. Now, you can set it up with the numbers if you want, and the picture will be down there. But my personal opinion, you can check that every time. You're at the gas station, you know it's in ride height. While it's putting gas, you can just walk and hold, measure them both as you walk up and down while you're checking to see if anything fell off. So to me, that's the way to do it. All right. Thanks for the questions. Very good. If I have any other questions about this, I'll put another video out because you remember, these videos are going to go into the database. So with all of the videos having to do with rear suspension, this series will also be there so you can read all about it. In upcoming episodes, I'm going to talk about how to more use our 400 video database, because there's a lot of stuff in there. Okay, check it out. When you go to the Patreon page, just hit collections. It's the first page that comes up when you hit Motorhome Rehab Ranch, and it goes on Patreon, and it comes up to Motorhome Rehab Ranch. There's a couple of pictures, and then right below that it says about collections, I think back or something. Hit collections, and they're all there. Get used to it. Play with that a little bit, because there's a lot of stuff there. All right, guys. Well, I hope this answers the question. Send me some more comments and questions about this. I have another series going here real soon. Thanks for your support. Ranch Hands, thanks for everything you do for me. And you guys, will see you next time.